how do we allow the livestock to live their life, while at the same time, as the teams that are benefiting from the livestock, because the livestock production does not happen in a vacuum. So how do we allow them to live their life while we also get the required product and a conducive environment to live in? When we look at it, the agriculture sector accounts for about 31% of the Kenyans' total greenhouse gas emission. But livestock methane is the primary driver. When you look at the livestock sector, it is contributing about 28% of the total national emission, which is over 90% of total agricultural emission. And that emission is basically from enteric fermentation, as I've underscored. We also have 2% from the manure management. Then we also have another 2% from nitrous oxide emission, which is produced when manure is allowed to decompose in open areas. And therefore, I think that, or I tend to believe that this discourse is very, 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 very timely. And as you can remember, I think, was it 2024, 2025, when there was an outcry that when we vaccinate, then the cows will what? They'll fat. But we are saying that fatting is natural.
Yeah,
so how do we do that
Dr.
in
Olala,
a decent way?
I want to move you like to page 20 or something of your presentation, but which is really how you balance this potential that you talk about, the demand and the need that we have, that is from an economic development, from livelihoods, with the impact that this livestock would have, particularly with regard to the emissions that we are talking about, the methane emissions in particular. The government has taken the position that focus should be more on the intensity of the emission rather than reducing herds. So I would want you to articulate clearly from a government standpoint how you are navigating this balance, that yes, our developmental needs must be met, our livelihoods, food security, everything, but at the same time to make sure that the emissions that emanate from this sector are also mitigated.
Thank you so much. I was laying the foundation, and I'm coming to that. And basically, I would say that the State Department for Livestock Development has put in the various measures to be able to curb or to reduce the high livestock methane emission. When you talk about livestock productivity, that is quite critical, but it is a factor of genetics and the environment. And therefore, you must match the genetics with the environment and vice versa. But as it is now, what we observe when you go out there, we have our zebu cattle that is basically maybe 150 to 250 kgs. And they take a very long time to mature. Go around the lake region, the zebu cattle is becoming the goat in size. Then go to the northern region, the sizes are gradually what? Decreasing, while the demand for livestock and livestock products is increasing. And therefore, we are saying that there is need for us to increase what? Productivity, which is currently quite low. And how do we increase the productivity? One major challenge is that we have currently low genetic merits livestock, but we are encouraging the livestock sector, including the value chain actors, to focus on deliberate what? Selection, the selection of breeds and support to the breeding what? Breeding program for us to be able to increase the sizes of the livestock that we have. Another factor that we see, we hear the government planning for the human in terms of maize, Galana Kulalo. But here in the livestock sector, you've never heard of what? Of maybe the government planning for what? Maize for livestock. More often than not, livestock is left for what? The waste products. But we are saying that how do you increase efficiency? How do you maybe reduce the methane gas that is being emitted due to what? Fermentation. It is about feeding the livestock on the high regimen feeds, and also making maybe the livestock that they can have high conversion efficiency ratios. What we are talking about
I think we'll come back, we'll do another round. Let me go to Esther Wangombe a little bit from the energy standpoint, particularly renewable energy. I want to hear, because I see you also have a bit of a speech, but where are you coming from with this? Because there's a global push to reduce emissions. Kenya has been seen as a global leader in the renewable space. How do you ensure that this push does not impede the developmental goals of Kenya from an energy standpoint, but rather complements it? I would like you to speak to that as you go through your key points.
So much for that. I will be very fast. First of all, I want to mention that within the energy sector, there are sources of methane, which I have not had any presenter mention, maybe just one or two. Because we do have the leakages that come from oil and gas handling while transporting the fossil fuels from one station to another. And we also have greenhouse gases that come from incomplete biomass combustion. And remember, 69% of rural people, they use biomass energy. That is wood fuel. What
is that, incomplete?
Incomplete biomass combustion is when you burn your wood, it's not completely burned. That's the incomplete. So some methane gases come from there. We also have the geothermal. You have the geothermal wells in Olkaria fields where it has been identified that methane gas presence is within the steam production. But it is said that this is manageable. And we also have methane from the transport in industrial combustion. That is incomplete combustion of fossil fuels in the transport area and industrial sectors. As a sector, as a State Department for Energy, we are looking at methane in two folds. One, it is a blessing. The fact that we have been promoting biogas production from methane, from the livestock. We actually promote domestic biogas plants and institutional biogas plants. They use the methane to do what we are calling clean cooking. The gas is clean. And then on the other hand, of course, methane is a pollutant. It's a greenhouse gas, so it's also not so acceptable. But while we are doing biogas promotion, we are actually improving energy access in rural areas and reducing the reliance on wood fuel. So for us, it is also something that we look at it both positive and negative, but we are maximizing on the positive aspect of it. So we have about 60,000 biogas plants in the country. Then, from the policy, and let me touch a little bit on what we are doing as a State Department on the policy side. We do have the Kenya National Energy Compact 2025 to 2030. That's a document we have. And we also have the National Energy Policy 2025 to 2034, where we have prioritized renewable energy sources, including bioenergy strategies to modernize and regulate the sector. Our future efforts are expected to focus on scaling up biogas in rural communities to meet sustainable development goals and enhance energy dependence. We have been working closely with the private sector in promoting the biogas plants, and also we have been trying our best to promote energy efficiency and energy conservation, because once used energy efficiently, you are not likely to go to the route of the fossil fuel dependence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Maneno, let me come to you. Please switch off your, I think it's one of the microphones. Thank you. So I'm coming to you now from a policy standpoint. I've been to the position paper that emanated from the ministry, which essentially says that whatever efforts are made towards the reduction of methane emissions must not threaten livelihoods, particularly of farmers, those who keep livestock and so on. What does that look like practically from a climate policy that the government is supporting?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to respond to that. And first, let me reiterate the government policy position and allow me to read this, just one paragraph. Pastoralism and dairy farming, this is because most of the methane comes from the livestock sector, are economic mainstays and cultural cornerstones for millions of Kenyans. Pastoralism sustains livelihoods across more than 80% of Kenya's landmass and in the arid and semi-arid lands, while dairy farming anchors household incomes and rural economies in the highlands and mixed farming zones, supporting smallholder farmers, cooperatives, and substantial agro-processing value chain. Together, they underpin the national food security as primary sources of milk, beef, and other livestock products. Article 2 of the Paris Agreement requires that global response to climate change be pursued in ways that do not threaten food production and within the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication. Accordingly, the official position of the government is that policies and measures in the livestock sector aimed at reducing methane emissions must not compromise sustainable development or efforts to eradicate poverty. The government does not and will not support any activity, policy, and there has been conversation that are aimed at reducing the size of the herd. But as from the Kenyan government, we see that there are other viable interventions, including increasing productivity so that, as has been presented here, we reduce the intensity of emissions per unit of product rather than in reducing the livestock herd. We will continue to track the methane emissions and the impacts of various policies and measures and pursue those interventions that will be in line with our developmental objectives, which is well spoken to in the Paris Agreement, because all climate action should not lead to a worse livelihoods, to loss of livelihoods, or a deterioration of living conditions.
Thank you so much for that. We do underscore the role of livestock in carbon emission. As of now, the government